This is The Good Doctor with ReviewSTL, and I'm talking to Dan Marsala, lead singer of Story of the Year.
Until the day I die, I'll spill my heart for you.
St. Louis's own Story of the Year is back with a new album titled Tear Me to Pieces. The album is the band's first since 2017's Wolves. Lead singer Dan Marsala recently sat down to talk about the band's new album, Story of the Year's March 11th show at the Pageant, and a few other topics. So let's talk about the new album, Tear Me to Pieces. How long did it take to put the whole thing together, writing and recording all of it?
Oh, it was quite a process. We, there was the pandemic times, the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. We were kind of writing throughout all that for like a year or two. And we had stockpiled a lot of songs, but we assigned a deal to Sharp Tone Records that the record is coming out on. And at that point, we kind of like got serious. So we went and we kind of scrapped everything and started over. And just started writing songs with other co-writers and stuff. We started just getting outside of our box because we were kind of stuck with like this group of songs that we had, and they weren't really, up to what we wanted it to be. So anyway, after it was a couple years of writing basically, and then finally, the back and forth we recorded everything in Nashville, and it was a 6-month period of going back and forth and knocking all that out. But yeah. After a few years of working, it's finally coming to fruition. So.
Tear me to pieces, I'm on my knees, 'cause I can't kill all the anxiety.
You kind of just know which ones are going to be the good ones. There's always standout songs, and it's like, yeah, this one's definitely better than the rest. There's not usually too much of an argument by that time. We whittle them down as we go, and I'll usually work harder on the ones that I think are better, and you put a little more effort into some because they're better songs. So, but yeah, it's a weird process because so what you think is good, it might not necessarily be what other people think is good. So you never really know. It's just kind of do what you feel and go for it. This was like the fourth title. I was just talking to a group of friends last night about how important like a band name or an album title is, because it represents the whole album and all the songs on it. So it's quite a hard thing unless you have like a whole theme the whole time. But this was like the record was done and we're listening through and looking at all the songs, and it's like, what represents the album? And it was really weird. There's a song on there called Afterglow, and that was a possible title for a little while. We had a couple other ones, but then our producer Colin, he was like, Afterglow's not it. He's like, don't name your album that. He's like, that does not represent this album. And we're all just sitting there, and we just thought, Tear Me to Pieces. We were like, that's going to be the opening track, the song Tear Me to Pieces. So, and we were just like, well, it's right in front of us. It's like, that is the opening track. That's the first line on the record. It just represents the record really well. So it was obvious, and it took us a while to see it, but it kind of fell into place. That was pretty easy because it's a play off of our first record, Page Avenue, and we knew we wanted to kind of bring that back and give it a rebirth because it's been 20 years since Page Avenue came out, 2003. So this year is very special for that record as well. So we just kind of wanted to tie it all together, and we just came up with a couple cool ideas to make it look cool and different. And yeah, I love that we got to tie it all in. I think it's awesome. It does not at all seem like it's been 20 years. I mean, yeah, I was 21 or 22 when it came out as well. We were pretty young, and I still think that I'm 21 in my brain, or maybe 16. I'm not real sure, but yeah, it's amazing that we're still doing it at all after 20 years. That we didn't have a lot of like expectations. We just thought, yes, we got signed. Let's put this record out. We recorded it with John Feldman from Goldfinger, who was one of our favorite bands at the time. That was just an awesome process. And I was like, if a couple people listen to this record, that'll be great. and had no idea that it would sell over 1 million records, and 20 years later we'd still be talking about it, and it's pretty amazing. You can't really put it into like a real thought. It just happens, and you're like, okay, I'm living it. I don't know, it's crazy. Very lucky that St. Louis has always treated us like it does. A lot of bands are from whatever city, especially if you're LA or New York. You don't get that same hometown love that we always have gotten, because there's not a lot of bigger bands from St. Louis. There's a lot of music, a lot of awesome musicians and stuff, but we did a lot more than most bands do it from this area. So we've always been really lucky, and pretty much every record release, we always like to do a pageant show. That's just kind of our tradition. It's like, let's release this record right, and yeah, we had to do it again. It's always great. Yeah, it's like the pageant's the best. St. Louis is the best. We're lucky. It's awesome. It's one of the better venues like around the world. It really is. It's crazy. Every band that comes through just knows that it's like the standard for what you want that size club to be. But I love playing. Well, most of the smaller venues have all disappeared over the years. There was the Creepy Crawl and the Galaxy and Mississippi Nights and all that stuff. They were all great in their own way, but we've kind of been stuck in the same size for the last bunch of years. We only play the pageant, although we did some smaller record shows at the Ready Room and Del Mar Hall last year or 2 years ago. I don't know how long ago that was. And those venues are great too. There's a lot of great venues, man. A lot of good spots for music. Well, it was shot. The hotel thing is somewhere in Illinois. It was like 40 minutes on the other side of the river. Like our director Jordan Phoenix, he just found that location, and we kind of guerrilla style went in, and the guy's like, "No filming here," and we're like, "Okay," and we just did it anyway, and just did a bunch of crazy stuff. But and then the other stuff was somewhere downtown in St. Louis. It was all pretty much local, but yeah, we've already done a couple serious videos for this record, so it was like the third real video we were making, and I'm like, okay, do we do another performance? Like, we just try to look cool and just play the song, and it was like, nope, now's the time. This song is like, it's lyrically, it's like pretty serious, but it's not real specific or anything. It's like, it lent itself to finally be able to make a funny video and just have fun, and everybody loves it, so it's obviously a good idea. I think we need to be dumb and funny more often. That's more of our personality anyway. We don't take ourselves too seriously usually. It's just yeah, it's hilarious. It was fun, a lot of fun to make.
Did you get what you came here for? Did you come to start a war? This game will kill you when you sleep. Did you get what you came here for? Did you come to start a war?
That was definitely one of the, like, okay, somewhere in between Sabotage and Boogie Nights, the movie, and like that was literally, I was like, anywhere in there, and let's just be dumb and make a bunch of stupid skits and have fun.
How has the music business changed as a whole, and has it changed for the better or worse in your opinion?
Oh man, it's a totally different world. I can't even imagine being a brand new band right now. Not in a good or bad way. It's just, it's completely different. It's like totally foreign to me. So whenever we came up, we were at venues trying to give out CDs. We had VHS tapes and stuff like in the early days. It was like crazy. And like, you had to go out and hustle and hand out flyers, and it was a totally different world. Now it's all, online and just hustling that way, which is a whole different mindset that I'm not real good at, like doing Instagram and TikTok and stuff. I'm not great at it. We've evolved and we're learning too, but I don't think it's better or worse. I think, well, I mean, it's obviously better. It's easier to connect to people. It's a lot easier to get music, a lot easier to stream stuff. I love that. I think it's amazing what has happened over a 20-year period. It was all CDs. There was no streaming 20 years ago. It was like, so yeah, I think it's definitely better. It might be harder for bands now because there's so much music now. It might be harder to get through and get seen, but there's pluses and negatives.
The night will come and rip away
definitely harder. Yeah, we can't pull off as much craziness as we once did, but we still go all out and have a lot of fun. And but also we don't tour nearly as much. So when we were coming out for the first few years, we would play 300 plus shows a year. So you're just like in autopilot. Your body's just like go. You know exactly what to do. You're just going crazy. Now it's like we might not play for 2 3 months, and I get on stage and jump a couple times. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? I haven't done this in a while. So part of it's just not flexing the muscle as often, but yeah, we try to balance it out and still put as much energy as we can, but try to sound good and have fun. Really, I mean, I do warm ups and stuff before we play. But no, I've never had any kind of training or anything, and I'm not the greatest singer by any means, but I can pull it off. But I've just kind of learned over all these years how to do it properly. And yeah, I don't have much of a. I'm not like no ice or no nothing. Usually there's some alcohol before the show, and I do all the things you're not supposed to do, and then go out and scream real loud, and it's like just crazy. So no, I other than just a little warm up, I just go for it. The worst thing is do everything for money and don't worry. But I don't know. We were always pretty smart. We did. It wasn't about advice. We always just were like, do. I mean, my advice to people was always do exactly what you want. Do it for yourself. Don't try to be cool and don't chase trends. Don't try to do what other people are doing. Make music that you love, and if you truly love what you're doing, then it will translate, to other people. And I'm sure we learned that from someone along the way as well, because that's just always been our mindset. I don't know if anybody ever told me that, but that's what I always would say. Adam, our bass player, always says that he heard some quote a long time ago that if you have a fallback plan, you will fall back, or whatever that quote is. He used to always say that in interviews. He's like, so we just went for the band. We had no other option. There was no looking back. And I mean, that is kind of how we did it in the early days too. It was just, keep your eye on where you're going and do what you love. Yeah, man, so many crazy, awesome tours. I mean, that Linkin Park tour was insane. It's weird. That was 2004, so that was 19 years ago, which is crazy. Just that we were so young and that was so new, but that was the first time we'd ever done an arena tour. First of all, it was every night. It was like 16,000 people, and it was 2 months of just craziness. We had never really been in a bus. Like that was the first time we were like really a big band. It was like, wow, we're on a real tour. So yeah, that's always a crazy memory. And Deftones, like you said, still is one of our favorite bands collectively in our band. We all love that band. So that was kind of a dream come true for all of us to get to do that tour with them on the Taste of Chaos. I don't know. We've made a lot of friends over the years. I don't know. It's too hard. I don't know if you were going to say anything about this, but we just did that Vegas show, the When We Were Young festival, and there was like 70 bands on it or whatever, and they're all from our genre. So backstage was just walking around. We probably knew 60 of the 70 bands. It was just like everybody we've ever toured with.
Right.
And it's so cool. It's like a high school reunion of bands. And yeah, any band you tour with, if you're on the road with somebody for like a month straight, you become very close because you like you're like crazy pirates with this group of men and women. And yeah, so you get close, and it's an experience that only band people kind of understand. It's weird. Kinda. I mean, it's since that's our most successful record, you're always kind of chasing that in a way, but you don't want to always look back. It's always how do we progress and still keep the magic of what that was. And our producer on this record, Colin Britton, it's the first time we worked together, and he's a little younger than us. Actually, he was a huge fan of ours, but he's killing it now. He's doing amazing things. He's working with like Papa Roach and a bunch of other great bands right now too. But he had like a really good grasp on what we should be doing. He's like, okay, this is not the direction you guys needed to be going. And he gave us like a little more youthful energy again. He kind of brought back some of that old feel. And every time he would make a suggestion, we were just like, wow, that does sound more like what we should be doing. That sounds more like Story of the Year. And he kind of brought a little bit of that back out of us. And so, yes, it does have an old Page Avenue kind of feel, but in a progressive new way, you know. And I think that's perfect for what we should be doing.
Say the words I don't wanna hear. Look away, bad things in the mirror. Twist the knife.
Just these last couple years, constantly, and I love it because I have 2 kids. We all have kids. Most of us have kids. Adam does not, but yeah, I have a 10 and a 6-year-old. So I think it's anytime I see a kid in the front row, I'm like, yes. We always point them out and like include them in the show. It's amazing. And I like 20 years ago, I would have been like, no, that's nerdy, man. You got to have only a pit and everybody's got to beat each other up. But now I love when people are just singing and bringing their kids and just, it's the next generation. I hope that they love our band for another 20 years. You know, it's amazing. I love it.
Go from here. When I'm with you, I see so clear. You and I are suicide, but that's just real life.